Hello, welcome to Inside the Firm. I'm your host, Alex Gore. I'm here with our co-host, Lance Cayko. How's it going?
Hello, hello.
So basically, Inside the Firm is an inside look into an architecture development firm, a business firm where we kind of reveal the curtain. We let you behind the scenes on what we're doing, architectural-wise, business-wise, development-wise, all that. So we're just going to dive right into it. So Lance, what do you got for us?
I have the Audacity of the Audit. That is the title of today's podcast.
I wanted to yell of hope.
Of the Audacity of Hope. Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Of the Audit.
Quite the opposite.
What a good name.
So most recently, I'd say within the last month or so, we were audited. Not by the IRS, but by the Department of Labor in the state of Colorado.
And let me set this up just a little bit. So if you own a firm or work for a business, this applies to you. So basically everyone. And what I mean by that...
Basically everybody. Honestly,
Yeah.
everybody should... This is for anybody, 100%.
Yep. So it's whether you should be hired as an employee or as a contractor. And that was our main sticking point.
Independent contractor.
Yep.
Especially if you are in the architecture field or the construction industry, chances are you have been hired as what they call an independent contractor, aka a 1099 employee. So, and the employee is a tricky word, right?
Yep.
So when Alex and I were coming into this business, I was hired as a 1099 employee under at the first firm that I worked here in Colorado. And I think you did some work too, right? With that sort of not in Colorado, but in your life.
Well, here's a couple examples. One I was an intern, and I'm pretty sure it was just 1099 because it was a stipend. You can't pay an employee a stipend of below minimum wage.
No,
because we got maybe $1,200 for the.
Do you remember how it worked with taxes and all that?
I don't know, but it was like $5 an hour. And this was like not that long. I mean, I guess it's like it was
shout out internships in New York City.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about it. It was great. Lots of people do it.
So you shouldn't. You know what's funny? I Googled us this morning to see how our rankings came up because we got a few more Google reviews for Longmont, and like on the third link, it says it had the recommendation from Daniel Liebskin for you because it's on our website. So there you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Worth it. It's worth it.
Yes, Daniel Liebskin.
The fact that Al Gore and Daniel Liebskin are in the same sentence.
We had many a talk in the elevator on the way up and down. Only like 5, but we used to go in a bunch of meetings together.
Yeah.
So there's one big example. Are all interns paid? A lot of them. Summer work, 1099.
So we also had a couple we had all of our employees and our former employees knew that this audit was happening because they're going to get phone calls. At first, Alex and I were honestly in like slight panic mode, right? Because
no, I wasn't. You were.
Oh, it was me.
Yeah.
Didn't it switch back? But it switched back and forth, didn't it? Because I swear, one day I'd be in panic mode, and the next day you'd be in panic mode.
I was. Maybe sometimes I pretend to be in panic mode just so we're on the same page.
Oh, okay, all right. He was never panic. Calm, cool, collective. That guy. Yeah.
That's a panic game.
If that's how you.
But this is why they called me up first and said.
So it was a phone call? I thought it was an email.
No, it's a
phone
phone
call.
call.
This is how far off we're on the same page.
Because they said, we sent a letter to you. What's your address? And I go, well, where did you send it? And they sent it to Minnesota, some place in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
But
why did that ever happen again? Because they looked you up in Rochester? Where
not
you
even
live?
Rochester. Not even where my parents live. Because sometimes I get stuff for Keith, my dad, Old Man. Shout out Old Man River.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. All the time. And Dad,
Rogaine products? Love Keith.
I just rip it up. It's normally for Chevy, which is like the truck I bought.
Speaking of which, how do you have so much hair compared to Zach? Zach is his brother.
Oh, I didn't go into the Army and get shot at.
Oh, that's right.
No, I did go into the Army. I did not get shot at.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a difference.
Al's hair is really holding strong, I gotta say.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. So anyway, sorry, I was getting some coffee. What were we talking about?
So you got the phone call. So first there was some letter that was sent to some, who knows in Minnesota. Then you get a phone call, yes?
Yeah, and I said, here's our new address. And she said, we're not the IRS. We're just looking at employees. And why I wasn't as freaked out as you, because it was this difference. Do you classify them as contractors or employees?
Basically, so let's say somebody comes to work for you. Do you have them fill out a W-4 or do you have them fill out a W-9?
Yep. One, I thought we've done everything the right way. And then 2, even if we haven't, there's probably nothing we could do to make it seem like it was the right way. So the end result would be the same.
Yes.
That was going through my head.
It is kind of what it is.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So we thought basically there's a couple employees / contractors that were in school at the time. They had another job. They were in a different city, Denver. What's the city south of Denver? Suburbs. They're just in the suburbs of Denver, all around. Doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Denver Metro.
Yep. Wouldn't it really come into the office maybe once in a blue moon? Some never.
And one in particular, we actually offered a full-time job and said, "Hey, here's an offer. Come up. We'd just love to have you in every day. We'll help you with relocation. We will literally help you with your deposit to get an apartment, stuff like that."
Yep.
Just wouldn't have it. So,
using their own computers and literally minimal communication besides maybe some initial training. Anyone that does any work for us, we say, hey, watch these videos, do whatever. Even if you don't do work for us and ask me for advice about Revit, I say, watch these videos, do this. So we get people up to speed, and then we say, hey, here's a project, do the red lines, whatever. And then they'll send stuff back. So in our head, that's not an employee. If I can't have a person in my office doing what I tell them, using my machines, working when I want them to, they don't have another side job or also in school, man, it's hard to call you an employee in my head.
Now, in Alex's head and in my head too. So in our heads, right?
Turned out we were wrong.
Turns out we were wrong. Yep, absolutely. But to back it up, another reason why I had the idea that this was okay was because of a former employer who basically, when I moved to Colorado, I signed literally a 90-day sort of trial period contract. They had me fill out a W-9, and I thought, okay, if it's set up that way, right? If there's this private contract between us, why does the state even need to be involved, right?
Yep.
And so we just kind of use that practice moving forward. The difference was, like Alex was saying, is a lot of these guys were never in our office, right? The difference with me there was I was in the office every day. And when I got laid off from that job, I eventually became a full-time employee. When I got laid off from that job, I genuinely thought something seemed a little fishy about that. And so now that we went through it,
yeah, it is fishy. But why it made sense to me, not what we did. What we did made sense to me because, again, they were not in the office. They were at school and some of them had legitimate second jobs. So
or like little mini businesses.
It made sense because when you're hiring someone, when we give someone an employment offer, we know in our head, like, this is easily a year. And that's how I always think about it. It's easily a year, and you're easily an employee for as long as you want to be here. Mm-hmm. Just that long-term mentality. And because in my head, it's a long-term mentality, it means that there should be a trial period. And you should know it's a trial period. I should know it's a trial period. So that first 90 days, that 3 months is, are we a good fit? Were you lying about your skills? Are you not diligent? Do you not show up on time?
Do the personalities fit within the culture that we have here?
Exactly. And in my head, it was a way of letting people know. And then it was a way of not committing, where an offer to me seems like, man.
Because what we would do is we would do 90-day reviews. Now, I think now that we went through this process, we could still set it up like that.
Yeah. I have a dumb question for you then.
But we can't the way we pay all that. It has to be 100% changed because of the lesson we learned here.
Yeah. So someone contacted us because they lost a job up in Fort Collins and moved from like Michigan because it didn't work out with that firm and was looking for a new job. And we just didn't have anything at the time. But why I like the 90 days and not the full. If I give you an offer letter, I feel like I can't lay you off for at least a year. Like I feel like. And here's a stupid question.
You can, but morally, right? Isn't your moral compass coming into play here?
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Is it more? That's just a moral hang up that I or you have.
Probably.
And it's not a real.
Quit being such a nice guy.
You can fire them in 2 weeks. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
get out of here.
I don't know. I'd love
a drafting table.
I'd love other people to weigh in on this. Mark,
anybody who has experience with this, because so to get down to brass tacks, we tried to have as much paperwork together for this audit when it came down to D-Day.
Right.
So the gal comes into our office from the state. We have our bookkeeper there. Our bookkeeper kind of had me a little bit scared in the sense that, Alex maybe too, about fines. We didn't know what kind of fines we were looking at. We just, we're, as everybody knows who's listening to this podcast, we're doing a development. So like cash is king around here. We have to hold on as much as we can. We're hired 2 more employees. If we were just thinking that it's going to be fines in the tens of thousands of dollars, some crazy number, just to teach us a lesson. Who knows? And just thinking, oh my gosh, this might sink the ship type of thing. It was some serious panic. And I was so thinking, angry that day.
How many people were in question? 4 or 5?
I think 5 people.
And it was, so I was thinking maybe 5,000, 6,000, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to talk? I was actually watching my baby. Shout out Atlas so I couldn't be at this meeting. So do you want to talk about some of the interactions there?
Absolutely. So it was the gal came in on a Friday. Very nice, but also if everybody, I don't like rules. So this is a very rule oriented person. So it's difficult for me to stay patient with that. It's difficult for me to have somebody come into my private office. It's a private business. I feel like and this on top of that, when we sort of morally justified in our head already that we were doing the right thing, and that at the end of the day, all of these guys, all these guys who we thought were 1099s would ended up, they basically should have been W-4s. In my head, it was every time it was boiled down to, we're giving them their first shot. Gosh,
especially,
boy, I just feel like under attack as an entrepreneur and a capitalist and a person who believes in personal liberty and freedom and all of those things.
Because this audit was for the 2015 year.
Yeah, and it was the first year we ever really turned a decent profit, and they told Alex, quote unquote,
it was random.
Random. Oh, come on, it can't be. It
I believe it was random, but I'm a positive man.
I want to
sidetrack
It's my conspiracy theory
because
on the audit.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, of someone coming into we rent it, but we literally pay for the space.
You didn't. Well, maybe because you didn't get to see it. Maybe you would have had that.
But you know how I don't like some of the Boulder County rules for a sprinkler, and you know how I don't agree with Boulder County.
Alex hates rules too.
Can you imagine once I design and build my house, which the firm is going to help build too, because it's going to be this whole thing. So we're going to physically build the house, and if someone comes in and tells me something about how angry inside I'm going to be, I'm going to be a little crab apple.
I know. The best advice.
Hard to deal with myself.
The 40,000 foot view at this point with your house. My advice is if you can get somewhere where there's not an HOA, because I think it'll drive you insane.
I really won't like that one bit.
No. I had a chicken fight with my HOA.
Yeah. So honestly, less things piss me off than you, but those few things that piss me
ever.
What? No, you get angry all the time.
It's true.
But the ones I get angry about, I feel like I get really angry about.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
It's really funny, actually. It's funny because it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
No,
he's pissed. Al's pissed now.
Whereas me, everyone's just like,
me. So
back to to get back to the audit. So the gal comes in, and I'm thinking all those things that I already explained, and we go through, and she's asking for paperwork, and we're showing her this and that, and then our bookkeeper was doing a really good job about, she had everything ready, but she was also very inquisitive and kind of softened the whole discussion in that she played, for lack of better words, she played dumb in the sense that we don't know. And nice. Me, I was just struggling to keep it under control and not be angry that this was happening to us. So it was like this good cop, bad cop situation, right? Nice. You weren't here. And so she gets down to telling us, well, here, just let me show you. Let's just pick one out, and we'll see if they qualify as a contractor or not. So it's as simple as this, to where if anybody else ever gets audited on this.
Can you write down who the example one was that you're going to talk about?
Oh, so the viewers, the listeners don't see. This was actually not technically an employee. This was a subcontractor for us. So actually, in the end, we ended up getting fined, I think, for 5 people. But
It was only $400.
it was under $500. It's a very small percentage, and it's a really nice slap on the wrist. Like at the end of the day, I do think it was good that this happened to us, that we went through this cycle early, because I still think we're early in terms of how old the firm is, right?
Yep. And just to let you know,
and they weren't large amounts of money that they could. So what they do is they take a percentage, right? I think it was 1.3% or something of the total what you pay a 1099. That's kind of the fine you get.
Gotcha.
Something like that. It's a very small percentage of the amount of money, and that's how they do it.
And before you dive back into, talking with her, what happened is after this meeting, she got all this information. Then she went back to her office, and about 2 to 3 weeks later, she sent us a letter with basically her judgment of what was right, what was wrong, and then a fine. So if this is going to happen to you, you probably haven't prepared for it because it's in the past. But just know that initial fine is probably going to be pennies. And it's just literally... It's
don't lose sleep over it. Don't get crazy angry like I did. You just got to take it as it comes if this ever happens to you. And I don't know how... This lady, I think she said she does about $150 a year.
And all I would say is just gather whatever paperwork you have. If you don't have the paperwork, then you don't have the paperwork. And then just go, here you go. This is what I have. What I don't have, I don't know. Obviously, you shouldn't willingly try to break any laws. We weren't either.
Right.
But just put it out there. Because I bet you there's interpretations from each state and each person, too.
Exactly. So for the specific state of Colorado and for specifically this gal, what she did, so she pulled up the name of one of these contractors, actually a contractor that helped us build a tiny house. He is an independent contractor. He has his own company. So he qualified. So it was a good one for her to look up. So
and how she looked him up was basically she went on to see if he was registered with... State of Colorado. So the Department of Occupational Regulation Agency, something like that. But you set it up through like the attorney, like the state attorney.
The Secretary of State.
Secretary of State.
So same thing applies for every state in that regard.
Yep. So they'll look up if they're registered.
If there's a trade name, first of all, if there's a trade name, who's it? A lot of times it's like registered, right? It has to be unregistered under your name. Then they look up and see if they're an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whatever.
Yep. And then they might look if they have an internet website present.
Exactly. That was the third step.
Yeah.
So the third step was she literally goes on Google and sees if they're advertising anywhere else.
Which is so weird because I feel like that's maybe back in the day they'd look for a telephone number for a company.
Well, here's the other thing. So part of the my dad came down and as a licensed contractor and worked on the tiny house, and we paid him.
This is what he does. Literally, his job is to work for a bunch of different people.
And
she
asks me, well, is he advertising anywhere else? And I'm like, no, the guy is an old cowboy who just goes around and talks to people.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey,
can you help me fix this barn?
I need a new deck.
Yeah. And Mitch is like, yeah, I'll be over Monday.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's like maybe there's a handshake.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a handshake.
20 to 30 years of doing this.
Literally 20 to 30.
Yeah.
About 20, yeah.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Oh, but he doesn't have a website. Get out of town.
Get out of town. I know exactly. The guy just got a smartphone for the first time last year. Yeah. Every once in a while he texts. Yeah. Every once in a while he texts. So that's the gamut of how they run through if somebody's an independent contractor or not. And I go, so then there was other people that she investigated too, because if you're an architecture firm, you are most likely going to hire at some point like a subcontractor to do maybe an energy rating. Maybe they're a structural engineer, a mechanical engineer, all of those things. Here's the part that blew Alex's our mind is that so our structural engineer was in question. Well, I knew he was going to pass. That's no problem. Like he actually sends us formal invoices, the whole deal. And then she goes, what you need to keep in mind is if this entity, let's say, Bob's Engineering,
yep.
If he or she, if you account for their over 80%,
I thought it was 70.
70, sorry. If you account for 70% of their income, they're not an independent contractor. And I go, what? And she goes, well, the criteria is, let's say
we went away.
Then their business fails.
Maybe not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that as a freedom loving, just not
what's messed up
not
about
impressed with the government person, that killed me inside, because I thought, like, how is it your business?
Why that is such a strong maybe. Why that's actually, I would say, incorrect.
That's overstepping.
Why that's incorrect. Not only is because it's egregious, because with this engineer too, we thought, like, one, he wouldn't come into our office. He wouldn't work for us. Like, so we have to basically fire this engineer because he won't be our employee.
Oh my God. In the new building we're building, we've offered, like, we'd love to just have you in there.
Yeah. But what's also crazy about this is that 70%, let's say Lance, we'll go away for two reasons. One, let's say the economy tanks and just goes nowhere. Well, that engineer, his might tank just because the economy tanks.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it has nothing to do with us. Or let's say we go out, we don't listen to that paper that they gave us. We break all these rules. We get fined. We do bad stuff. And we go out just because we're corrupt and terrible. Well, David's not going to go out of business. That business is still here. The other architecture firm right across the street is going to get it. David knows them. There you go. So it's totally false. It's a false statement.
That is. It's a false premise for assuming. It's a false, like, what am I looking for here? It's a false reason.
Assumption.
Yeah, it's a false assumption.
Yep.
By the state. I'm not responsible just because I'm not. Here's my problem. I'm not responsible for that person not having 5 different architecture firms that give him an equal 20% of their work. Like, yeah. I'm not in control of that person. It's if their business fails. Why would that fall onto me?
And it's also crazy because let's say he worked for us and got 70% of his work, and let's say we can pay you $70,000. Well, he's like, well, I want to make $100,000. I can sit here at my place. I can get 70% from you and 30% from else, and I can make $100,000. Why wouldn't I do that?
Why wouldn't I do that?
That doesn't make any sense. So it's actually terrible. I'm actually getting kind of upset about this. The next part that's kind of upsetting about this is that there's huge contractors that work majority, over 70% of the deliverables are for the government. Should they not exist to just be the government?
Exactly. What a double standard. What's a good one? Boeing or like Raytheon? Freaking Raytheon.
Raytheon. But whoever makes a whole bunch of weapons that aren't for civilians. Who else is gonna buy them?
Raytheon.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
So in conclusion, we got this small fine, we got the slap on the wrist. If we ever continued any of those practices with right now, just for the record, so everybody knows that right now everybody's a W-2/W-4. It's the same thing. You have them fill a W-4, then you pay them with a W-2.
Yep.
That's everybody at our firm is that way at this point. We are 7 strong. But and actually, Alex was saying earlier today, if we get this other project, we might hire somebody else. Well, they'd be a W-4. But let's say for some reason we're crazy and we're like, they'll never. Let's try this again. If we tried it, if we did what we thought was right a second time, and we know now that it's not, then we're looking at major fines. Then you're looking at major fines from the standpoint of like $5,000 to $10,000 per infraction.
Yep.
Per infraction.
But here's the things you should know. If you're hiring an independent contractor, before you pay them, you're supposed to get a W-9 from them.
Right away.
Yep. So know that, write that down. That's huge because
Number one.
Yep. If you're hiring someone, get a W-2 from them and a physical copy. Because what we did do, ADP is all online. So I would log in, I'd set them up, and then I'd have them come to the computer.
No, W-4. But yeah.
W-4. You're right. W-4.
This is for So I-9, the W-9 independent contractor, W-4 full-time employee.
Yep. They physically have to fill one out, and we're filling one out every single year. So
here's the other form you have to do too.
This was my favorite.
Yeah. This is the best story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the other form you have to fill out is an I-9, and there's a real strict mandate to do that since 9/11 is because of the Department of Homeland Security Act and the Patriot Act. That's what I'm looking for. So for anybody who doesn't know what the I-9 is,
and everyone should know because everyone has to fill this out.
Everyone, even the owner, even if you've grown up in the United States, you know who you are.
But what's crazy is that it's to verify that you're not an illegal immigrant.
So we had all that filled out, ready to go for this audit, right? I even filled it out, and so I had to, like, as the 50% owner in the company, I had to fill one out as also a W-4 employee of the company. So I looked at the gal and I said, do I even need to fill this out? Oh yeah. Gotta be done. Gotta be done. Ridiculous.
Why I think this is so important is that if you're a sole proprietor, every year you should be filling out a W-4 and a I-9 for yourself.
Just to check that you haven't become an illegal alien.
Yeah.
This is the redundancy of the state.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
What was also crazy, when I was registering one of the trailers for one of the tiny houses, I was at the DMV. Like, oh, we need a representative from the company. I was like, oh, great. I am that representative. And she's like, no, we need someone different. I was like, wait. I own a substantial stake in the company. I am authorized to sign for everything. What do you mean? Like, no, we just need someone different. It doesn't matter. I go, it just didn't compute. It did not compute. They literally had to call you. Remember, you had to sign something. I was like,
you were so pissed that day.
What? So even Lance, let's pretend you own 75% or 80% of the company.
Which I don't. We're 50-50.
Yeah. You would have to call me at fake 20. Hey, could you approve that I could sign for the company that I own?
You should have had Maddie P do it, our fake board member / real board member.
Yeah. No, it was Caleb.
Oh, Caleb, that's right.
Yeah. It's too funny. Funny stuff, government. You're funny guys.
So, okay, so you get all those forms filled out, right? And let's say you're going to do the 1099 contractor thing. You need to go look up if they're registered with the state. They have to basically be like a sole proprietor, something like that.
Another piece of advice. If you want to do work for multiple people and let's say the recession hits again and you're like, oh, I'm just going to piecemeal from 4 or 5.
I'm going to freelance.
Register yourself. Incorporate. It's not that hard. Go to the Secretary of State. Fill out your I-9, your W-4 for yourself.
And check yourself. Vet yourself.
I would exactly. You have to have your passport. You have to look.
You got to check.
You have to sign that you've checked your own. Driver's license.
That's why it was redundant, and that's why I wanted to hear it from this lady's mouth.
Yep.
And acknowledge the redundancy, and she did it with. She was unflappable. Like there was no laughing. It was just stone cold. Oh yeah, you got to do that.
Yep.
Oh my god.
So this is why. Let's say you are in that situation or that situation happens. You can use that as a benefit of why to hire you than anyone else. That all of your ducks are in the row.
I didn't even think about that. That is brilliant. You just have all your paperwork ready to go.
Yep. And that's why every one of you should also have your own website. Because, you're working in HOM, HOK, whatever. And all of a sudden, everything hits the fan. Your website's up. You already have stuff.
You're ready to go for that next recession. Because it's going to happen. Yeah. A lot of people are saying with the consumer price index. If anybody, there's a recent report that came out, the consumer price index, and the way that the inflation is going, that the recession is due like any year. We're ready for it. So yeah, be prepared. So the other, what the heck? So you fill out the paperwork. Where are we at with this? You fill out the paperwork. You make sure you get your own website, or you make sure the other people have their own website, right? And then they're registered with the state. If all of those things fall into place and you're an employer and you're looking to hire a 1099 contractor, then it's okay to make them a 1099. Then they're that. If one of those pieces are not in place, they have to be a W-4. There's no other way. So the last piece of advice I would give somebody is, let's say you're not an employer. Let's say you are an employee. Know that know that if somebody thinks you're a 1099, if you're going into the office every day and you're not. You're a W-4. And I don't know how you somehow you have to be like the good cop in that situation, I think. And you have to come to the employer and say, "Look, I heard this from such and such or whatever, and here's how it works. I don't want you guys to get in trouble. How can we work this out?" Because I know about all these sorts. You see what I'm saying?
Well, you're talking about if the contractor is saying that.
Yeah.
Well, one, if you have all your ducks in a row, you should be good. And then two,
but I'm saying if they don't, if it is a grad student and he just came out and he's just like,
get your ducks in a row and then present the solution. Say, hey, I'm listening to Inside the Firm. Everyone at your company should listen to it. The guys are great. Anyways, I want to make sure you guys have these because I heard that even in the future they might come back and look. So just give them solutions.
You got to just look like the good guy and be the good guy.
Here's the other thing too. If you're in a pickle too, and the majority of your work is for one firm, but they won't hire you. Let's say they won't hire you, but you get 70, 80, 90, 100% from them. I would just know the argument because the person investigating does call these contractors
After the audit.
After the audit calls them. And if they say, hey, do you get all of your work or majority of your work from them? You can answer truthfully, but it says, I think I know where you're going. And I still consider myself an independent contractor because even if they fail, I might choose to work. If the economy is good, I will choose to work for someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And that work will still be there. They failed for some other reason independent of me. If the economy is bad and they fail, I might fail irregardless, so it has nothing to do with them. I would just have that in your back brain pocket.
Boop, boop. Your little tiny back brain pocket.
Yeah, there's a little zipper back there. That's what you got hair for. People don't know, but if you search around.
Yeah. So that's the audacity of the audit that we went through. I hope people can learn from it. Honestly, if anybody else, like Alex said, if anybody else has any stories, comments, questions about that, would love to hear. Would love to have a discussion about it.
But akg@f9productions.com, Facebook, all that,
Twitter, all that stuff. Okay. The next little segment we're going to do is the code quiz.
Whoop, whoop.
If you listen to last week's episode, Lance is taking now I'm talking in a third person.
You should.
Jerk. I'm taking the Class B contractor's test, so I am reading nearly, I'm not going to lie, nearly every word in the IBC 2015 code book.
Skip some.
I got to skip some, dude. It's just, oh, God. There's a couple chapters I just wanted to shoot myself. But some chapters are really good. So Alex is also taking the ARE test. So I've already taken them, I've already passed them, and so there's some things in there that I remember. I'm not going to tell them exactly what's on because that's illegal. We do legal stuff here.
Yes, we do.
But I do know, I can tell based on, if I was making up the test, these are some of the questions I'll ask. So we're going to do 3 questions, okay? Everybody play along. Nobody can look in the code book. And our good friend Evan Troxel said he nailed both questions last episode.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see. He knew what a proscenium was, and he knew what a sally port was.
You know what? I'm actually impressed by that because I follow Evan, and I kind of know what he does, and he does a lot of good stuff, but those are still very rare.
They're weird. So then he and I were talking back and forth in the Ontario Architect community, and he's like, that sounds awful, but good luck, break a leg. And then I said, yeah, the only way to get through it is if I lock myself in a sally port. That's
Archie Speak podcast is his podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
With some other guys.
Super good. Okay. Here's number 1. Okay. This is out of chapter 10, means of egress. Yep. The code is 1003.2 ceiling height. Okay. There's only one correct answer for this question, Alex. Ready?
Okay.
The means of egress shall have a ceiling height of not less than which of the following? 6 feet, 7 feet, 7'6", or 8?
I immediately wrote down 7 foot.
Incorrect. You failed again.
Oh!
I knew you were going to say 7. And I bet. Did you say 7 because we deal with so many houses? Because 7 is the key.
Okay,
there.
let me think about this not in a house. Let me think about this in means of egress. Okay, say them to me again.
The whole question? Or
No, just the answers.
6 feet, 7 feet, 7'6", 8 feet. Oh, yeah, I haven't told you the answer.
So it's not 7. So 7, 6, 8, or 6. Means of egress.
This is such a perfect ARE question, too. I'll tell you why. If you would just...
I want to say 6 is too low because 6'8" should be... Because that's the threshold for doors. So
stairs.
To go below that, so now it's between 7'6" and 8 feet. And I'm gonna say, I want to say 7'6", but I think I'm gonna say 7'6".
Correct. That's why it's the perfect ARE question, because it's freaking weird.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know. There's probably some good reason, but that one really stuck out to me. I was like, what? 7'6"? Okay, good to know. Yeah. Good to know. So you got to have 7'6" in like a fire-rated corridor to get people out of the building, stuff like that, right?
Yep. Well, doesn't your means of egress extend into the room? But for residential, residential wouldn't apply to the IBC. That's why this all makes sense.
Right. Means of egress starts at the door.
Yeah.
like from a space.
So in a commercial building IBC, can you not have a room lower than 7'6"?
No, you can have rooms lower than 7'6".
But doesn't the means of egress start from the farthest corner?
I don't know. You can argue it all day long. There's exceptions.
You know what's so funny is that's why it's a perfect question too.
Yeah, exactly.
For the area, because
I don't know. I think I would have to look that up. But I feel like you can do,
unless the means of egress only counts once you get in the hallway, but they count the distance from the corner of the room.
Now you're making me think I should have brought the code book in and then read you definition for means of egress. So
we can pause and we can get some coffee.
We can get some. Yeah, you need some coffee?
Why not?
Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, here's the definition. You ready? I'm going to read it to you, and then you just tell me how you interpret it, all right? Means of egress. A continuous and unobstructed path of vertical and horizontal egress travel from any occupied portion of a building or structure to a public way. A means of egress consists of three separate and distinct parts: the exit access, the exit, and the exit discharge.
Don't we have, maybe we'll have to pause again. Don't we have the IBC visual graphics companion?
I don't think so.
I thought we did. Oh, only in PDF maybe.
Yeah.
So at first it said any. The first part made me think I was right, that everything has to be 7'6". Then it said the three parts, and none of that said a room.
Exactly. So it's not. So it's because it's from the first part, the exit access. So
yeah, the access to the exit.
Exactly.
Yep.
Terrible writing by lawyers. Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. This is from Chapter 11, Accessibility. Section 1103, Scoping Requirements. Okay, ready? This is for this one, I'll give you a hint. 2 of these answers are right. 2 of them are wrong. Okay, so you have to guess 2 of them. Okay. Which of the following site, buildings, structures, etc., are exempt from being designed to be accessible? Daycare facilities in a home. Okay, that's key. Daycare facilities in a home. Or highway toll booths. Or residential group R1. Or raised areas in places of religious worship. So I'm going to repeat the question one more time. Which of the following sites, buildings, structures, etc. are exempt from being designed to be accessible? A, daycare facilities in a home. B, highway toll booths. C, residential group R1. D, raised areas and places of religious worship. Which of those 2 are exempt, Alex?
You know what? I was going to say... my initial reaction, and this isn't my final reaction, is daycare in a home. And I think I'm going to stick with that one. And then it was the raised in a religious, raised portion in a religious structure.
That those are...
Yep. But I don't know if it's that.
Those are exempt.
Exempt. But then the toll booth one, I think, that'd be exempt. But man, it's so easy. It's so easy to make it because... But they don't have a turning radius. But then if there's like a B classification, you could technically do it. But then do you have to make them all where that height? So
counter heights and think about it. Yeah.
I'm going to say daycare and toll booths.
So you got one of the two. You got one of the 2 correct.
Yeah. Okay. Which one?
And the one that you got correct is highway toll booths.
Wow.
How did you not get residential group R1 correct? That one is exempt from being ADA compliant. That's just a single family home.
Because I was thinking that they wouldn't cover IRC things. Because if that's IRC, then don't address it.
You would be amazed about how many times they reference. They just they will make it clear that residential is exempt from this or this or this throughout the IBC.
Yeah. So that makes sense thinking that way. What's crazy about it is that remember when we were telling the building officials know that they reference each other and the codes speak to each other, and they told us no.
They told us no. What was this in Lakewood?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, my only point is that they can interpret these things in different ways.
Yeah. So the part that blew my mind was highway toll booths. Could not believe that. I mean, I just thought, what? That's even like a public technically a public space because, right, highway.
Yep.
We're talking about, publicly funded spaces, but highway toll booths.
I feel like you tricked me when you said daycare, and you're like, in a home, that's key. So I'm like, hint.
Well, that's
hint.
You see, I could write the ARE questions. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm tricky like that. That's a weird double negative right there, or double weirdness.
Yeah.
And then the key. So, what do you think the key is? Here's the bonus question. Okay.
Yep.
I'm just making this up right now. For the raised areas and places of religious worship, okay, those ones. Hold on one second. So, what is the square footage? Okay, what is the square footage?
If it's under, then you don't have to be.
Okay, yeah, exactly. What is the number of square footage that would trigger it to be versus not? Okay,
I'll give you 2 answers.
Okay,
one, if somehow it's a third of the floor plate below and you call it a mezzanine, that's maybe. And my other one is aggregate of 3,000 square feet.
Your number is close in regards to having one too many zeros, so 300 square feet.
Okay,
so that platform, let's say you designed a church and in the middle is a platform, and the priest or whoever, the dedes, stands up and talks. 300 square feet. If you're over that, got to be accessible. Got to be accessible. And why I thought that made sense is, like, if you go to the occupancy table, a lot of the occupancies are based on like 300 square feet, right, per person.
Yes.
Type of thing.
That makes sense. And know why you could write these questions is because if someone knew the code, they would say, raised areas in religious, if it's under 300 feet, it's exempt. So
it's tricky.
That's
a tricky one, isn't it?
Exactly. And they could know even more than me.
Exactly.
And yet still get it wrong.
Yeah. You tricksters. Yeah. Okay. So this is the last one. This one is hilarious.
Yeah.
Section 1.1. So same chapter.
Time out. Why aren't you asking all the ones that you text me like the last 2 nights where I'm like, yeah, I know that, I knew that. But you ask me those
because
ones.
of what you just explained.
Because I do.
I want to make you look, like you don't know anything on air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. That 3,000 aggregate rule. Just so other people know, if you're under two stories, 3,000 square foot, you are exempt. So that's where that number came from. From doing basically an elevator, escalator, or anything up to
an elevator or even an accessible route.
Yep. And under 75, so your path has to be 75 feet
or less.
Yep. Or less. Exactly.
Small buildings rock, dude. The more I get through this IRBC code, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if we ever want to do giant buildings. Yeah. It just seems like everything's in your favor at that point, as far as not having to do extra steps. Not that we're trying to discriminate. It just costs more money.
Yep.
Okay.
And, those were the ones we were talking about the other night that I knew because of our development that we're doing.
Yeah. All right. This is the third one. Same chapter, section 1110.4.12.1 minimum number.
Nice. 300.
What? There's only one correct answer.
300. Next question.
What percentage of holes on a miniature golf course shall be accessible?
Wow.
I'm not kidding. A, 25%. B, 33%. C, 55%. D, 75%.
The lowest one.
Oh, sorry. There's a typo. Let me change the typo real quick here and reread the answers to you, okay? And the question. What percentage of holes on miniature golf courses shall be accessible? A, 25%. B, 33%. C, 50%. D, 75%.
This is going to be a pure guess because we have not designed many miniature golf courses
yet.
No,
after this though,
honestly,
putting this on my resume for knowing this question.
Is one of the reasons these are the questions is because you saw that and we're like, what?
Oh, exactly.
Like, there's no way.
I have a whole list. I have a whole list as I read through this where it's like, what?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
I'll go with.
dun,
I'll go with.
dun, 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 dun. Come on, give us your rationale. I liked how you ran through the rationale of the other ones.
25% is, if it's going to be something, 25% is too low.
It just seems too low, right?
Yep. 75% seems too high, but it's a miniature golf course, so they might say, hey, you need to comply with that. 33 kind of rhymes with the 300. It seems like a nice rational one.
Wow, look at you. You are just ready for ARE weird questions.
Yeah, exactly. So and then 50% seems like it could be, but it seems like a cop out. It seems like you didn't think about it, right? So that's why I don't think it's 50%. So I'm debating between 33% and 75%.
Oh, okay. I thought you nixed 75. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your final answer, Alex?
Okay, I wanted to say 33, but I feel like you're messing with me.
Uh-huh.
So then I want to say 75.
I am messing with you. This is a real question.
75.
50%. Oh. See, that would have been tricky, right?
That would have been tricky.
Yeah. Okay, there you have it. Half.
I don't know. Bob, what do you think?
I don't know, Frank. Half? Half? What do you think?
Guess.
You would think, you know what wow, 50%. Yeah. I don't know. That's crazy. Now every time I go to miniature golf course, I'm going to observe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're heading to sue unless they give you a free game.
Exactly. Exactly. Free stuff for life from miniature golf. Look out, miniature golf courses.
Yeah, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
It's Lance Cayko of F9 Productions. You can see his picture at f9productions.com.
All right. And with that, I believe it is time for our annual, what is it called again?
It's called Q&A. Actually, it's called...
Best and worst advice.
Yep, but this was another Ron Faleide, famous architect down in Denver, so I did more of a Q&A than just his best and worst advice. I'll let Lance decide if he's going to pause it and interrupt or if he's going to let the whole thing fly, so we'll see in a little bit. All right, I'm here with Ron Faleide. Is that how you say it?
That's how you say it.
Awesome. Jerry just told me that. Down here in Denver, I knew about Ron since I got here. Actually, one of the projects that we got, someone called us up and said, hey, another architect was doing this, but he's too busy. And we're like, okay, who is it? And they go, Ron Faleide. So we looked him up. And I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. But anyways, you're a known guy down in Denver. I don't know how known you are. Maybe you can speak to this. How I feel like you're pretty popular. Jerry.
More popular than you think he is.
Yeah. So Jerry's over there chiming in.
Yeah.
So a lot of you probably know him, which I wouldn't be surprised. So Ron, let's just get into it. Let's talk about some of your. Let's start out with best advice. What's some of the best advice you've got or that you'd given?
Okay, this has to do with practicing architecture. Okay. Probably the best advice that I've ever heard or that I was ever given was to become an idea-driven decision maker. And that is both in terms of practice and personal life decisions. And that is, there are two realms. There's the realm of the kickable world, and there's the realm of the idea world. And to pay attention to the idea and the ideals, but mostly it's the idea. That is probably, without a doubt, the most important lesson I was ever given.
What do you mean by the kickaboo world?
Well, it's what you can touch.
Oh.
It's the physical world, which is different than the world of ideas.
Yep.
An idea would be the idea of, say, love or passion or anything that is not kickable is an idea.
Okay, kickable, not kickaboo.
Kickable.
Kickable. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I must have heard that wrong.
Okay.
It's a very interesting thought. And you must, could you give an example of how you apply this to your projects?
Yes. So, for instance, one idea that I bring pretty consistently to projects is the idea of the dialectic. Now, the dialectic is something which is an idea about opposites, and it can apply to a conversation, it can apply to design decision making, it can apply to the kickable world as well as the idea world. So, for instance, in the idea world, the dialectic plays out whereby you have an idea, you arbitrarily come up with what you want to have as its opposite. This is not yin-yang. They don't complement each other. They don't create a whole. They, in fact, remain separate, and it's the juxtaposition, the in-between, which is so important. In designing my own house, for instance, I was working with a 1924 masonry bungalow, which is a masonry box. So what's its opposite? maybe a steel frame. And so when I did the house, I combined the steel frame addition to the masonry box, and they live in opposition to each other, not complementary. And so the magic is in the in-between.
Yep.
The fact that the two exist separate and independently, but they create this third condition, which is the undesigned, which I didn't do. I didn't design that. All I did was come up with an opposite.
Yeah. How about, I think you mentioned that it could apply to architecture and life. I'm very interested. How do you see it applying to just regular general life?
The dialectic.
No, just the being decision through ideas.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit maybe philosophical or theoretical. I'm going to refer to Aristotle and Plato. Okay, Aristotle suggested that the cosmos, the universe, is a cumulative unity. In other words, it's this plus this plus this plus this plus this. And so what becomes important then is the syntax between these things, the one plus the one plus the one, and you add them all up. Whereas Plato said, no, that's not the universe, the cosmos. We are actually working with a singular whole, which you can arbitrarily divide into little bits. But in fact, it is a single thing. And so I tend to see the advantage of thinking in either term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I can apply that to the architecture as well as my own life and my own understanding of where I place myself in the cosmos.
Gotcha. Very interesting. I think people should ponder that too, because not only are you making moves in architecture, design, sketches, but you make moves in lives too. And whatever you do kind of has an opposite effect, or there's space in between that, and that might have intended or unintended consequences. It might be beautiful or disastrous.
That's right. And it's the unintended that I'm interested in. So what is a couple? A husband and a wife. Hopefully they still remain separate and independent, but as a unit, a singular whole. Now, the division as to what belongs to whom is arbitrary.
Yeah.
You get to decide.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, let's switch over gears. Let's go to the opposite.
Okay.
What about some bad advice that you either heard about, got, or even gave? Have you never asked that before, but maybe something, I don't mean to push this on you, but I actually want to think about this. Maybe I'm sure there's times we've all said something where we thought, maybe that wasn't the best, but we'll leave that on the table for now, unless you can think of something.
Oh, okay. So the worst advice that I ever got was to not go to college. I was actually advised by a number of people, and one person in particular who had some authority in my life when I was younger, who suggested that I not continue my education past high school. And that was probably the worst advice I've ever received, is to not go to higher education, not to continue learning, not to understand that to be a satisfied human being, that the learning experience is forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's academic, sometimes it's, hard knocks.
Yep.
There's many ways to learn, but that's probably the worst advice I ever received.
Did you must not have listened to it?
I did. I pretty much ignored it. Yeah.
Good for you.
I now have 4 post-high school degrees.
There you go. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Anything you want to touch on else before we leave?
To get back to the practice of architecture, I think it's helpful to understand that the practice of architecture and the discipline of architecture are 2 separate things. Obviously, there's an overlap, and obviously they inform each other. But to engage in the discipline of architecture has lifelong reward, not only for you, but for your clients and for how you can influence other people's lives. The practice of architecture, that's the nitty-gritty. Let's get through the day, let's cross our T's, dot our I's, let's deal with the social,
ADA.
the political, ADA, well, maybe not ADA, because that's actually changing people's lives. But
true.
But dealing with the politics of City Hall and all these kinds of things, that you simply have to suffer through. The fact is the practice of architecture, at the end of the day, allows you to go home happy, even if you don't have a whole lot of fun during the day.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Ron. It was good to meet you for the first time. Best of luck. You do amazing work. So it was just great meeting you.
Thank you.
And we're back. Big thanks to Ron. I've met Ron a few times, and I always appreciate his insight. Very thoughtful man. I like his philosophy, his expression of philosophy, and all those things. What struck me, I kind of just had to reiterate the in between back to myself. So I wrote something down that says, the in between, without the in between, nothing can be a whole, and therefore the in between matters most, but we don't design the in between. And then I started thinking of, do we have any projects where you feel like there's been a happy in between, where it's just there's something that is surprising when you walk through a new space or something like that, where you're like, wow, that makes all kinds of sense now that I see it.
The only one I can think of was a studio project, and I think this had a nice in between. So it was for a concrete factory. You probably remember this. And the entrance, I made an abstract circle, basically to sort of mimic the tumbling. I
have a perfect one now that I think about it, but keep going.
Concrete truck. So it was abstract, and then over the top of this entrance was glass, but there was rebar that kind of held everything together. And for some reason, right now, when you talk like that, and when Ron talks like that, it seems like that space in there, that in between those things that you made, is really thick. It seems very thick, a very thick place.
And without it, it feels like everything else wouldn't even be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was, I really like what he had to say about that. You know what's the perfect example that we have?
What?
Skyscraper. Do you remember that so Alex and I did a skyscraper, we won a design competition for it in school, and it's basically these two towers. So if you go to our website, you go to Facebook, you can find it on F9. When we designed that, remember? We went through this process of like morphing the form of it for good reasons, solar orientation, and we twisted it. Like we really took a rectangle, your typical skyscraper, and molded it to be as if it was growing, right? That's the idea behind grow. The last thing that we designed that was a happy accident was in between the two towers, there's a fog collection system. That was just a happy accident of the in between. And if that in between didn't exist, then how could we get all of that rainwater, right, so that we could have the building and then it could grow? Yeah. Perfect example. I can't believe I didn't think about that before.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. One thing I took away from it was, the discipline versus the practice. And there's a lot of times you guys have probably heard us complain maybe once or twice about maybe the city or maybe the government. I don't know if we've ever even done it this podcast, but you might have heard about it, and it probably gives me a better perspective. I think that's gonna exist in every practice. I don't think that's unique to architecture.
Oh yeah.
So if you're sitting here and like, oh, I don't want to do architecture because of this and that, maybe just know that is a part of everyone's life, and you do have to get through it. Unless you have a job like Joe Rogan, where he podcasts, does fights, announces fights, and works out, and just talks to cool people.
Most lately, the way I've been dealing with just the grind of the profession is, prior to hiring our latest two additions, my back was just killing me. I carry all my stress right between my shoulder blades, and it just like it bundles up. I went to chiropractors. Nothing helps except for me doing what I want. So for the last 2 weeks, I have only done what I want. You know what I mean? I haven't felt that I've had to. And one of the things I want to do is I honestly don't really want to draw anymore. As far as in Revit and stuff like that, I would like to be a salesman, the developer, contractor, all those things. My back has felt phenomenal lately. Yeah. So I think for me, it's if you can make your life that way, where like generally you're doing what you want, I feel like you're most present. I feel like you're that is in life. You're not future. You're not forward.
Yep. Good advice. And then I'll just contrast it. One of the coolest guys on the planet, I think, right now is Elon Musk. And if someone told you or me, like, hey, you can be ahead of two companies, one that makes spaceships, one that makes, I wouldn't say the coolest cars on the planet, but like very hip, awesome cars. And then you can transform possibly the whole grid to make it green, sustainable energy, to be like, wow, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
So, but in an interview, they asked him about his job and, basically saying like, oh, it just must be wonderful. I don't know. He might be the smartest.
You're changing the world.
Yeah, but you might be the smartest guy on the planet, honestly. All this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but what I don't talk about and what you don't normally see is that as a boss, normally all the decisions that are easy or are in line don't come to me. I get all the decisions and the questions of the stuff that doesn't work out, that is a problem. So he's like, my life is dealing with hell. and he has billions of dollars.
He's worth 14.9, I think was the last estimation.
Exactly. And of course he probably can fly places and not to say that his life is bad by any stretch.
Remarried his wife.
But
I don't know about that, but yeah.
If you think about that, and I think there's some truth, like, yeah, he's probably dealing with some.
Yeah. He has to be. He has to be. Yeah. Okay. Great. Last thing here, a little bit of development talk, but it only has to no development talk.
There will be, but I kept talking with Ron. I just wanted to bring up one more point.
Oh, okay.
I tried to secretly record it, but it didn't work. I even told him I was secretly recording it, and I just asked how do you approach projects? And I'm going to butcher his answer because I don't have the recording.
So sorry. Repeat the question for me.
Ron, how do you start or approach a project?
Okay.
And Jerry chimed in and he goes, well, this is what I don't believe about Ron. Ron's going to lie to you. He goes, because Ron says he doesn't listen to the client. And Ron's like, that's right, I don't. And he goes, I start with a box and I try to disprove it. And if I can't disprove it, you're getting a box. And I thought that was hilarious.
You're serious?
Yeah. And then he goes, and then this is the part I'm going to butcher.
Listen to the client, huh?
He says that, but like
people have their own little
But I like that he starts with a box and tries to disprove it because he goes, a box is rational. If you can make it work, that's what you're getting. And then he said a bunch of terms that I can't remember and were probably over my head a little bit. But then how he approaches it is essentially the means, methods, and materials. So he thinks about those, and that's what he applies. So a lot of people might apply he's already thinking about the floor plan because he's just starting with a box and trying to disprove it. But then I think most people might go to windows or elevations. So
instead of trying to make a solution, he's trying to disprove a solution.
Yeah. Huh. Yes. And then it's more abstract I'm not placing windows. I'm thinking about means, materials, and methods.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool.
Is that how you can design your house now?
My house is already designed. It's boss.
All right. You got anything else for us, or are we going to wrap this up?
We'll wrap this up. We'll go to development. You want to talk development talk? I just wanted to pause before we go.
Okay, great. Yes. Development talk. So this is Alex will lead us through this. You are set to sell your home soon.
Yep.
And this pertains to us because
I was going to sell my house by owner, so I know the process so that I can know it when we do our development. So by owner, I thought, okay, I got pictures by myself. And basically, if you want pictures for your house, you can get a professional photographer. They're going to cost you at a minimum $500 and up, to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. But there's special people that just take real estate photos. They cost about $150. Honestly, they're not going to be as good as the professional ones, but they are going to be good because that's what they do. And I know I had Jason teach me Lightroom right before he left, and I know I could have done it in Photoshop, but Lightroom is a little bit better. It's another Adobe product. So then I just touched them all up in Lightroom. So then they looked really nice.
From the professional.
Oh, okay. Touched them up again. Yeah. So I did that, and then I thought, okay, I was going to sell it literally tomorrow. I was going to put it on the market. It's going to be ready to go.
On Saturday.
Yep.
Which is a Saturday.
Yep. And Lance, for Zillow, it is this easy. You could go to your house right now on Zillow. You could find it and say, I'm the owner. It will send you like a text message, email confirmation, stuff like that. And then you have control over what pictures are on Zillow, what it says, and then you can say, list this house.
And what does it cost?
$0. Zillow, free.
How do they make money? Probably advertisements.
Advertisements, real estate people.
Advertisements, and then also the realtors who do somehow pay maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of realtors advertise on Zillow. Okay.
And so once you get hold of your house,
would that have got you on MLS though?
No.
No.
But what's crazy about how good Zillow is? One, I think that's where a lot of people are looking.
Yeah.
And two, right now, people. Anyways, I'll keep going with Zillow. Then you get into like this is your house, like portion of it, so you can change everything, and then it says houses similar to yours that have sold recently. So there's a map and it has different ranges. So,
oh my gosh. It tells you the comps?
It tells you all the comps. And you can go in and you can click on that house and then you go to the Zillow page. So you see their pictures, you see their square footage, you see their bedrooms, you see everything. So you can look at a comp and say, is that comparable or not? Because let's say a comp sold for, it says it was a comp, but it sold for $275, where my house is maybe $250, right? $255. And be like, oh, they're semi-similar, but they have all new finishes, all new, they'd be like, okay, I understand. If I want to get that way, I can maybe move my house that way, or, so it's
what's amazing about that is we keep hearing about, and we are seeing like already fast food restaurants replace, workers with these kiosks. Like that is a perfect example of how a realtor is now replaced by an algorithm in Zillow.
Yeah.
To a T.
And honestly, I think so. I get some MLS listings, and it's in a weird format. They show you one picture. It looks it looks like the government made the form. It just doesn't make sense. Like the MLS is not keeping up. If it really exists in 5 years, it's only because of protectionism. It's not because it's a good service.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm not a real estate agent. This is just from a consumer standpoint, okay? Because Zillow is kicking its butt. So anyways, I figured out, I put all my pictures on Zillow, and then since I'm selling it myself, I'm like, I'm going to email the top 10, I think I emailed 15 best real estate agents in Longmont.
How did you find them?
Google top 10.
I was really hoping that was the way you did it. You mean to tell me it's that easy?
So I made a list of their emails, and then I sent them all an email and said, hey, this is my house. I'm going to sell it this weekend, blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Like immediately 2 people are like, hey, I might have someone, blah, blah, blah. And then a third one, and these are all like 5 stars, 50 to 400 reviews. One person email one of the
You're
first
kidding.
people.
Seriously, that many reviews? Honestly, I hate to get. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I thought we were cool with like 20 plus on certain websites.
We're not cool.
We're not cool
at all. She said, hey, I would like to list your house, and the reason why is because I like to be where the action is. Because the action is where everything is. And I buy that because that's honestly our philosophy is being the action and to give first.
It is.
So I immediately gelled with that thought process.
Yeah.
And that she said she was going to do it for free because I would just do it myself. Right. So she comes and I meet with her. She's all great. And she's still doing it for free. She'll probably be my agent when I buy my new house.
I'm so blown away that she's doing it for free too, because the market is so hot, and anything under $300,000 right now will sell immediately in anywhere Colorado, and for usually $10,000 over asking price. It's a hot ticket item.
Yep.
You get multiple offers.
If I get what I want above my asking, I'm going to cut her a check for some petty cash.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a mean person about it.
Well, yeah.
But I almost think the other reason, I just put in the front line, hey, I have firm F9 Productions.
Principal of an architecture firm.
Architecture firm.
Yeah,
so, and honestly, if she's great, I think it'll be a great relationship because we're just getting started in Longmont. So for her, she didn't have to, but I hope it's going to be a smart move for her. I hope it was a smart move for me too. So then she goes, okay.
So you met with her.
Yep.
And you still had the idea that you were going to put this on a Saturday. You were going to put the house on.
Yes. Yep.
And then she proceeded to convince you otherwise,
yep.
right?
And she's like, here's my strategy for selling a home to get above asking price. So I get professional pictures. I go, done. Excuse me. Then I put it, I list it on MLS and Zillow and everything 5 days before the showing, the open house.
Yes,
the showing,
5 days before the open house.
Right. Don't let anyone see it.
Yep.
Can't see it. There's open house. You can come on the open house.
And open houses are best done on the weekends, so we're probably talking like a Monday,
Saturday.
Tuesday. of listing it.
Yep. Monday, Tuesday listing. So Saturday will be the open house, and then she goes, I have a very short open house. It's going to be from 1 to 3, and that way we get as much traffic in. She's like, I'll invite the neighbors, invite everyone. If you want to show up, you should show up. Just walk around so it looks like people are there.
Okay.
Yep.
It's possible. I can maybe make it.
Yeah, just drive by. Oh, that looks like an awesome house.
But are you gonna for my open house? I had water and cookies.
Oh yeah,
I sold
we're
my
gonna have
house.
waters, coffee, and cookies.
Beautiful. So I sold my house last year, made a very good profit on it, and we did the same strategy. So Alex actually called me and said, "Hey, is this right? And I go, "Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, Maryland, this is what we did for my house. We got as much money as we wanted, and then it went from there."
And I think the only new addition to this is that she goes, we have the inspection pre-inspected.
Oh yes, yeah. So this was an interesting caveat.
Yep. So here's how that works: is that it's the inspectors. There's a whole group. They're a whole company. I won't say their name because it doesn't really matter. I think they're a national company.
Okay.
They've been great, and they come and inspect it, and then they give you. I have a whole checklist of stuff, and honestly, everything in my house is extremely minor. But then there's a list of things. So I'll give you an example. Around my attic, my access to my crawl space, I'm gonna put a little rubber stopper to make sure no water from the outside gets in there.
Okay.
Just a whole bunch of little stupid stuff, but good stuff. And then she's gonna give that to the people that are offering and say, "Here you go, make it."
It's already done.
It's already done. And essentially what it's saying is like, you know what? We aren't looking for anyone who's looking for guff. And
Exactly.
Guff, get out of here.
It takes, it narrows the riffraff out. Anybody who's thinking they're getting a deal, I mean, or like a really, or can get more you to do like all these ticky tacky, or even something like big maybe, but there is nothing big.
And here's what an astute buyer's agent would probably do is they'll hopefully see that and say, okay, we're going to waive the inspection. And there's two reasons to do this. One is that if I get an offer that's the same and one says I'm going to waive the inspection, one says I'm not, I'm going to take the one that's going to waive the inspection. And not because like I'm trying to get away with anything like that, but what she said is what you don't want to do psychologically is put up roadblocks when they're trying to get this done, right? So let's say it's another people who are busy. If they have to hire someone, look at the report, judge, it looks like there's like a couple things, like maybe there should be some rubber around something. Like it just hampers the whole process.
Exactly.
So if you take away every barrier to it, and I think that's generally marketing. If you take away all the barriers to your product and your product is a good product, it should sell faster and for more, right?
Yeah.
So it made complete sense to me. And that's the main point, is that like you just want the train to keep rolling.
Exactly. Okay, let me ask you a closing question then.
Yep. So did I say this list I'm going to go and just do them?
Yes.
And then I won't have a list. There won't be a list on the inspection because I did it.
No, you're taking all the barriers. Yep, you said that. So here's my closing question for today then.
42. 300.
Have you thought about how this would translate into our development then, from the standpoint of, a lot of developers they'll finish a model home, right? And then everybody walks through the model home, and then they sign to do, let's say it's let's say it's a neighborhood like mine where there's 24 lots. They have a model home. People walk through the model home, say, "Oh, I really love this, but I'd like it modified, and then we want this lot of land, so then we're going to buy this lot of land." Well, we're doing condos, right? We're going to do them. Ideally, we're going to do them all at once.
Yep.
So let's say we finish them all at once. Do you do the same strategy? Do you do the same strategy where you list them all? Because a lot of people that we've been talking to, especially you, have been saying, if you guys get to the price when you're talking to, they're going to just go so quickly.
Yeah. So I think we do the same strategy, and I want to combine two strategies. One, let's list them all and then say, hey, we have a virtual open house. And in here,
oh, that's cool.
We'll have a 3D printed model. We have screens. We have computers. We'll have the material boards, all that, and then we'll say we'll list
1
it.
to 3.
What?
1 to 3. It's just panic time.
Yep. We'll list it 5 days before and say Saturday from 1 to 3. Here you go. And then here's the other thing too. I actually know you have.
You already thought about this.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
This is why he makes medium dollars.
I mean, those big mediums, they're thick. They're thick medium dollars.
It's the in between.
Yeah, it's the in between. Exactly. So buying a new house, and I hope a lot of people come to us and they're buying new houses because that's who's in the market. And if you've ever bought from these big builders, it's layer after layer of them slowly increasing like their budget. It's okay. You got your house. You got your basic version. They show you the moon, and then all of a sudden everything on that moon was above the base.
It
price.
was a layer,
and the land is more. Then there's physical changes. So having like 2 sinks is a physical change. Having a barn door is a physical change. So there's all that, and then you go to their design center, and that's where you get to pick out carpet versus wood versus. So everything, whatever that base price is, add $25,000 on a minimum.
Exactly.
On a minimum. So I saw this. I'll send you this. I'll put a link to it. This developer in Texas. So he did houses, and he basically says there's no painting. There's no what was it? No painting. No electrical bills, and something else. So he's making clean modern houses where the exterior is brick and stucco and the roof is metal, and then he has solar panels. So there's no bills and there's no maintenance.
Yep.
And they look cool. And you go to his website and he shows you, like, you pick the house in the floor plan, and it says, I think they're starting out at like $395, right? Whatever. And then you go to pick the lot, and they give you a lot, and it's $0. If you want a bigger lot, you can choose it. But all those other ones, even getting a lot, the lot is never included. So that's $11,000 just to start with, right? And then they have, it's so clear. It's like building your car. You can just choose upgrade or not, but the base levels are actually good levels. Like the outside is that stone, that whatever. Oh, another thing for the house is that every elevation, like different, there was 4 or 5 different elevations, was like $4 or $5 grand more. So like I think the house I was looking at was $325. Okay, now it's $11,000 for the lot. Then to not have the most crap elevation ever was another $5,000. Then to have even it just everything was AC was extra. Everything was extra.
Dog door.
Yeah. So I would want to also make a website that's just like super clear. One, we're going to really limit options, but oh no, this is just simple. Everything is straightforward and very upfront.
Yeah,
which these other guys don't do.
I like it. I really like the list. So you talked about the first. We're gonna do 2 things. You said so. Number one, you said we're gonna do this virtual open house, right?
Yep.
What second step is the actual open house then, right? No. So it's just one.
Well, I will try one, and let's see if they all.
Would you want to do the virtual tour before it's built? I mean, why couldn't it be at that point, right?
It could be before it's built. It could be mid-construction so that they can see it and we can take pictures and say, hey, if you want to drive up, and maybe someone's stationed right there outside, just because. But and then say, see, we're already halfway. I like giving them, because the other thing with these new houses too, it's at least 9 months away because they haven't even started it.
Yeah.
Where this is like, no, this is 3 months. It'll be done in 3 months. You can have it in 3 months.
That's clock's ticking.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Cool. That's excellent insight.
Yeah.
Anything else for everybody?
I got nothing. So, hey, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. We hope you have a great weekend.
Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter.
And one more. We just found out on your phone you can give a review of our podcast. So there's a little icon right there. You don't have to go to iTunes or anything like that. Find the little I think it's under settings. Write a review, something like that. Please give us a review on your iPhone for the podcast. It really helps out.
All right, thanks. See you next week.